Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today to this episode of the Calm You podcast. This is a bit of an impromptu episode. I have to say, my guest that I was expecting to interview last week just didn't show up. So I am literally recording this on the Monday. I'm going to release it later today. I hope you find this topic interesting. I did have a lot of questions about this topic. And I answered some of them on Instagram, but I wanted to share a little bit more on here. I am going to talk to you about my recent move to Bali. So I am recording this now in an extremely sweaty, hot room because the aircon's not fully working. I've been in Bali for the last month. So this episode I'm going to share a bit about the move, what that was like, what it was like moving in a pandemic, how I got to that decision to make a big change in my life, and some of the fears and some of the worries and things that came up for me during that process. And I'm not sharing this, just to kind of, tell you about my holiday. I'm going to be sharing the things that I've been learning, the challenges that have come up for me, and hopefully you'll be able to take things away from this discussion that are going to be beneficial in your life as well. So as always, I want to invite you to come over to my website, www.calmeryou.com. And if you enter your details there, I've got loads of freebies to send you, free resources and hypnotherapy recordings and lots of good stuff there. So head on over and grab those freebies. So like many people, I had big plans for 2020 and probably like you as well, a lot of those plans were really not coming together. It was quite clear by about April or May that this year was not going to be what we were expecting it to be. And I'd had all these plans about Aidan and I, my partner, we've been together nearly 11 years now, going and doing our last bit of travelling, having our last bit of freedom and adventure before kind of settling down, maybe starting a family and that sort of thing. And my partner hasn't actually ever had like a gap year or anything like that. So to him, it was very important to, get away and explore a bit and have a bit of that freedom that he didn't really have for those of us that were lucky enough to have gap years and things earlier on in life. So I kind of felt that despite everything that was going on in 2020, delaying, the plans to go abroad or to travel or to do something different wasn't really an option for me. And these eggs aren't getting any younger, as my mum likes to remind me. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So I don't know if you can hear that. There's a very loud bird here in Bali. So after a lot of deliberation, we finally decided we were going to come to Bali. Now we were weighing it up between Bali and Costa Rica because there's a lot of things in Costa Rica that are very interesting to us as well. A lot of things around, the tribes from the Amazon will often come to Costa Rica. It's very close to Brazil. Aidan really wants to go back to the jungle to spend more time with the Hunikun, the tribe that we spent some time with last year. However, Bali seemed like a better option in terms of COVID. It has very low levels of COVID and we just thought it was a better option for us right now. Now I have to say I've been extremely fortunate through the pandemic to have my work continue, to have a partner that I get along with, so spending a lot of time together wasn't a problem for us. But one thing that I really did miss out on, I felt, was having a garden. And I know so many other people were in that boat and so many people had it, so much worse than me. But living in London, when it was those 36-degree days, no garden, no outdoor space. And we just thought to ourselves, if there's going to be another lockdown, it makes maybe more sense to be somewhere where we can get a garden. And in Bali, you can get a garden. It's a lot more affordable than London. So that was a big part of our decision-making process as well. So someone asked on Instagram, how did we make that decision? How did we suddenly decide we were going to make this big move? And I don't know what it's like for you, perhaps in your relationship or in your family, but I am the one who drives things forward in our relationship. I'm the one who decides, like, we're going on holiday, or we're moving house, we're doing this. When we get married, it'll be because of me kind of driving things forwards. And I'm sure it's different in every single relationship, but from a lot of people I've spoken to, there can quite often be one person in the relationship who is driving things forward, who is the social calendar organizer, for example. And in my relationship, that's me. So yeah, it's usually my decision. I'm the one driving things forward. And I was the one saying, right, like, what is it going to take, Aidan, for you to want to make this move? What do we need to do? So I was organising things like the visas, booking the flights, putting things in place to actually move things forwards. Now, I'm quite a decisive person in some ways. When I decide something, this is one of my strengths that I know I have. I can be very decisive. I can make things happen and very quickly. But I had a lot of indecision about where to live, where to move to, wondering if we should move back to Lancashire to be closer to our parents, wondering whether we should move to Cornwall to be closer to Aidan's mum, whether we should move, to another country. There was a certain amount of indecision. And to be honest, I think sometimes some decisions just need to have space to breathe. We need to take our time with things. It's helpful to try things out, to visit different places, to speak to different people. I think when it comes to something massive like where you're going to live, I don't think it is a decision that, necessarily should be made, on impulse. And if for you do get a real intuitive sense, or you just get this, snap decision and it's the right answer, then that's great. That wasn't the case for me. I did spend quite a lot of time umming and ahhing and asking people's opinions and trying things out. So another question that came through was about preparation for going away. And to be honest, the biggest amount of preparation was leaving. We didn't own the flat that we lived in. We were renting it, but we'd been in there for nearly 5 years. So a certain amount of clutter had accumulated, mostly Aidan's. He's somebody that has multiple hobbies. He likes music, analog and digital. He likes, got various different sound healing equipment, snowboarding equipment. He's got a lot of stuff basically. And it literally took us about 4 days to pack up the house. And then we drove all our stuff in a van up to Lancashire. We got back to my mum and dad's house at 2 a.m. after a really intense day of packing and moving. And then the next day put all of our stuff in storage. And so the majority of our stuff is just going to be in storage for the next however long we're going to be here for, who knows. But yeah, it was an intense experience. They say that moving house is one of the most stressful things that you can experience. And obviously it doesn't compare to a lot of really stressful things like losing a loved one, but it can be quite an intense experience. And, we went through various challenges, like Aidan thinking that it was only going to take a day for us to pack and move everything, and me saying, no, hang on a sec, it's going to take about 5 times longer than that. And that was interesting in itself. And saying goodbye to London was definitely, quite an emotional thing. My gorgeous sister Olivia lives 10 minutes up the road from where we were in Hackney. I had made some really beautiful friends there, community, loved our flat. I felt like to some extent I was leaving, my career behind. Am I going to be missing out on things to do with my career when I leave London? Am I going to find those friends again somewhere else? Am I going to regret this? Is this a massive mistake? But I kept reminding myself and coming back to this idea that, we have different seasons in our lives. We have different seasons, and there can be a big part of us that wants things to stay the same, that wants the safety and security of, the comfort of the normal and the routine that we've got ourselves in and the friendships that we have. And yet, life and nature itself goes through seasons, and sometimes it's just time for us to shift into a new season in our life and a new phase in our life. And as much as I was sad to leave London and my life there, I knew that it was time to shift into this new season. Anyway, all sorts of other weird things happened when we were moving. We planned to move on one date. It had to get moved a couple of days forward, so we couldn't get the people to help us move who were going to help us. So it was literally me and Aidan carrying heavy boxes down like 2 flights of stairs for 4 days. And yeah, definitely good relationship building exercise. We ended up moving our flights forwards because lockdown 2 came into effect. You know, it was going to be the day after our flights. Our flights were the day after lockdown 2 was going to start. So I slightly panicked and moved our flights forwards by 2 days. So we were going to get to spend a week with our families before coming out to Bali, but that got cut down to like 2 days, and it was all a bit of a rush in the end, and a little bit strange and disorientating. Suddenly, 1 minute packing everything up, the next minute being on a plane, being in a totally different country, different culture, different climate. And note to self for future, like, I did not believe in Mercury retrograde. I was one of these people that would be saying, come on guys, like, this can't be a real thing. However, I am now fairly convinced that Mercury retrograde is a thing. And it was Mercury retrograde when we were moving. And I just had this sense at one point that things were going wrong. Things were going wrong. It was one thing after another. The boxes didn't arrive for us to pack all our stuff into. So we ended up packing it into these tiny boxes from the corner shop. All sorts of things were going wrong. I won't bore you with the things that I felt were going wrong, but Mercury retrograde, just don't move house on Mercury retrograde. It's not a good idea. And yeah, the other thing that happened was we had planned to take a guitar and another bag with us, but literally when we were in a cab on the way to the airport in London, we found out that our airline charges an extortionate amount, something like 700 quid for a musical instrument. And we were like, that's more than the guitars were. And so we had to stop off at my aunt and uncle's house and just kind of give them a load of our stuff to look after. On the way to the airport, it was all a little bit chaotic. And had we had a bit more time and not been packing up our lives, we would have, researched that in advance and not had to, clutter up my aunt and uncle's house with our musical instruments. The next thing that I wanted to say that I think is important to add is that I definitely had worries about what people were going to think about this move. And, part of that is justified, because when we do something that is a little bit different, when we do something that might trigger other people to feel threatened or jealous or something like that, I mean, people are going to think things. People are going to judge you. Some people are going to judge you. And I really wanted to say this in case you're at a crossroads in your life right now and you're wanting to make a decision, make a change, do something different for yourself, whether that's moving to a different country, whether that's changing career, whether that's, changing things in your relationship or changing your partner, changing your friendship group. Those fears, whenever we're changing something, whenever we're stepping out and doing something that's a bit different, are going to arise. And I definitely had thoughts like, people are going to think, who does she think she is? Had weird thoughts like, Chloe's abandoning her country, worrying about people thinking that, which is kind of a weird thing to think, but there you go. And the truth is that when I posted about, the fact that I've moved to Bali, I did get people unfollowing. And that's completely okay. That's completely okay, because we can't please everyone. We can't live our lives scared about what other people are going to think. We can't live our lives scared about triggering or upsetting other people, because you're not going to be living your full life if you do that. And I remember a client saying to me that she had this dream of being a yoga teacher and doing a yoga teacher training in Goa. And she'd been Googling it and researching it for literally years. But she couldn't let go of the idea that her friends from school were going to judge her if she did that. And, through our conversations, she started to realise that, what a tragedy, what a shame to live your life scared of what other people think when you can't control that anyway. I can't control what other people think. It's their business. It actually has nothing to do with me. And you can't control what other people think about the things that you do in your life. So I really want to just share this story just to encourage you, even if you have those thoughts and those worries. It's not a sign that you shouldn't do it. It's not a sign that you shouldn't do it. People are going to think what they think, and you've got to do what's right for you. You've got to do what it is that's going to make you happy in your life. And one friend said to me, and I really like this, somebody's got to live in Bali, and it might as well be you. Somebody's got to quit their law career and go and be a yoga teacher. Somebody's got to dye their hair pink or shave their head, and it may as well be you, if that's what you've been thinking about doing. So I just really want to encourage you to listen to yourself and do what's right for you. So coming here, I've had quite a specific intention to allow this experience to change me. I am welcoming this experience to change me in positive ways. And it's interesting. I like to set a lot of intentions going into experiences. I like to have an intention about what I want to gain from an experience. And I encourage you to do this as well. Whether that's you go to a workshop, whether that's you go and do your yoga practice, whether that's a new relationship, having the intention that it's going to be meaningful for you, that it's going to change your life in positive ways, helps you to open yourself to that possibility. And one of the ways that I am allowing Bali to change me in positive ways is that I am having BJJ lessons. Now, not to be confused with BJ, but a few people get confused there. BJJ is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I can't even say it. But I first came across this from Shona Virtue, who was a guest on my podcast about this time last year. And she was telling me about how important she thinks Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is for our mental health, for our sense of our own strength, particularly as women. So BJJ is kind of like wrestling, essentially. And I have to say, that is massively outside of my comfort zone. I am a non-violent person. I don't want to choke anyone. There's an aspect of choking in BJJ, and that makes me pretty uncomfortable. In fact, we've been having these lessons, and the teacher is like a very high level, like cage fighter dude, basically. Like he's been doing martial arts since he was 5 years old. And to see him wrestling my boyfriend with his thighs around my boyfriend's neck is really quite uncomfortable for me. And I, have found in the past the things that have changed me the most have been the things that have been outside of my comfort zone. And this is true for all of us. We don't want to know that. We don't want to be uncomfortable, do we? But let's be honest, the things that change us the most are the things that are a bit uncomfortable for us. So it's outside of my comfort zone, but I'm willing to show up for it, and I'm having an open mind, and I'm trying to stay with the discomfort, because I think there's something about doing something that's very physical, doing something that's outside of our comfort zone, almost like, BJJ is kind of like playing rough. And as a girl growing up, playing rough was not really something that I did. I wanted to stay safe. I wanted to be nice and be a good girl. And so to be, flipping someone over and like pounding on the mat and, squeezing someone with my inner thighs sounds all quite sexual. Definitely isn't. That is, really showing me something about what I'm capable of. It's showing me that I can handle falling over again and again and again. We do this practice exercise. We have to fall on your ass and just get over it. That is such a valuable lesson for me. Like so many of you guys listening, there's a big part of me that doesn't want to fail. I don't want to be bad at things. I don't want to fall over. I don't want to be uncomfortable. And yet it's on the other side of these things where so many gifts lie, and so much growth is at the other side of that for us. And I haven't cried yet, but I did feel slightly like I might today. All the falling over. But we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'm excited to learn more and more about this. And I'll keep you posted as to how it goes. And I'd also love to know from you if you've ever tried anything like this, or have you noticed similar things, maybe learning other skills like surfing or diving, or Going to a dance class. We can all get these sorts of experiences from trying something new, doing something that uses our bodies, something that's outside of our comfort zone, something that's maybe a little bit scary, or something that we're not used to doing, or something that we're not good at. There's so much that we can learn from these things. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I just wanted to share a bit of an update and share some of the lessons that I'm learning at the moment, a few of the practical things. If you're ever considering doing something like this as well, I definitely recommend, doing the things that you want to do, even if your mum is saying to you that you're 34 and you should probably be trying to have a baby now. If doesn't feel right for you, or you have a whispering in your heart to do something else, then I think you should go for it. And that's exactly what my mum has been saying to me, by the way. We can't live our lives for our parents. We can't live our lives for other people. We've got to do what's right for us. And maybe we make mistakes and we learn from them, and those are our mistakes to make. Or maybe you take a chance and it turns out to be the best decision ever. So I don't know how long we're going to spend here in Bali. We have a visa for a few months. We're going to play it by ear and see how it goes. I do see myself going back to England at some point. I love my friends and family there. I love the English countryside. And I do see myself settling there in the longer term, but we will see. I'm being open-minded about it. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I would love to see you over on my Instagram. That's where I am on a daily basis. You can come and find me at Chloe Bretheridge. Send me a DM if you've listened to this episode. Let me know if anything has resonated with you. And as always, if you've got a friend who could benefit from this episode, please do share it with them as well. And you can come on over to my website, calmeryou.com, grab some freebies there, loads of resources to support you in your journey in becoming your calmest, happiest, and most confident self. So I will chat to you later. Sending you loads of love. Take care. Bye-bye.